This video is brought to you by
Auckland Photographer's Clothing.
What are the best cameras of 2024 and probably also 2025 with a maximum budget of $2,500? From a professional photographer's point of view, I have looked through various current and older models and their prices and put together my personal top list for you. This is the second of 3 parts in different budgets, and we looked at almost all the cameras in this episode in person, picked them up and filled them for you that you can see them virtually in real life. How they are in the hand and how they look compared maybe to other cameras. If you are interested in low-priced entry-level cameras up to $600, then check out the first video, including lens recommendations. In this video, I will also give you 1 or 2 lenses that you can buy separately and the cameras that I will recommend you should buy without a lens. Because you will save a lot of money and the included kit lenses that manufacturers sell are usually not that good. I have also intentionally left out many models here, otherwise the list would even be longer. And only considered the best current mirrorless models from the major manufacturers in the budget, as well as affordable older models that are still technically top and of interest. All the prices are average price ranges, which also take into account the used prices and not only the recommended retail prices, and can of course vary depending where you live, when you watch the video and where you look for the cameras. If you don't know what the terms like APS-C, full frame, ISO and so on mean, I would recommend you to watch this video from my Photography for Beginners course after watching this video or before you continuing watching this video. There I explain everything that you need to know about cameras. In the specs, I only consider the base ISO values, not the extended high ISO values, because they sound good on paper and may look good, but in reality most people don't use them because they are just super noisy. All the cameras in this video are sorted in ascending order by price, and in the end, I will give you my personal opinion and recommendation which camera I would choose. Now let's start with the list. The first one is the Nikon Zf, probably the most beautiful APS-C camera from Nikon from 2021, with 21 megapixels and Z-mount, priced between $700 to $1,000. With ISO up to 51,200, 11 frames per second continuous shooting, but only 209 focus points and no sensor stabilizer. 4K 30 frames and HD 120 frames per second are possible in video mode. In my opinion, it has the best all-around flip screen, just like the Canons had forever, which you can turn sideways and flip forward to the front. Not like the Z50's weird down flippable screen. Personally, I don't find it that great ergonomically and haptically. It feels rather cheap and lightweight, but it's nice looking. For a lens, I would take the Nikon 40mm f2.0 or maybe the Viltrox 33mm 1.4 or some other open aperture lens. Number 2 is the Sony A7 III. With a 24 megapixel full-frame sensor from 2018. One of Sony's most popular cameras you can get on offer for under $1,000 or even $800 second-hand. With an ISO sensitivity of up to 51,200 and a 5-axis sensor stabilizer. 10 images continuous shooting are possible with a whopping 693 focus points. 4K 30 frames and HD 120 frames are possible in video mode. The only drawback for me is the old folding display from Sony you can't film yourself with. as it is not flippable to the front. Otherwise, a top price performance for a really good full-frame camera that I've been using for some time myself to take photos and to film with. Although it is 6 years old, it can still keep up well with modern cameras. You can't go wrong with this camera, and the next generation, the Mark IV, is also mentioned in this video later, so if you like this camera, maybe also take a look at the other camera model with a larger budget and then decide which one you take. You can get the 75mm 1.8 from Samyang, for example. I like on full frame. It costs just under $300. It's lightweight and has a great look. Or just anything else possible for Sony E-mount full frame. A lot of third-party manufacturers have lenses for E-mount like Sigma, Tamron and so on. Number 3 is the Canon R7 from 2022. 33 megapixels on APS-C for $1,200 to $1,500. 651 focus points, ISO 32,000, 15 or 30 frames per second continuous shooting, and also a 5-axis image stabilizer. In video mode, 4K 60 frames and HD 120 frames are possible. This makes the camera great for filming. And it also has the well-proven flip screen on which you can see yourself. If you are looking for an APS-C camera that is strong in almost all categories, this is the one for you. For the RF mount, I would buy the RF 50mm 1.8 or 35mm with it, just like with the Canon R50. And we'll stick with the Canon and hop onto the Canon R8. It is roughly the same price range, around $1,200 to $1,500, but this time with a full-frame sensor and 24 megapixels from 2023. ISO goes up to 102,400, super smooth 1053 focus points, and 6 or up to 40 frames per second burst mode. In video mode, there are 4K 60 frames and HD 180 frames possible, and just like with its little brother, the screen can be flipped out and rotated to the front. However, there's no image stabilizer, in my opinion, a downside for this camera. Otherwise, the price-value ratio for a full-frame RF mount camera is quite fair. Number 5 is the Panasonic Lumix S5 II, which is also available in the price range of $1,200 to $1,500. It's from 2023, featuring a 24 megapixel full-frame sensor and a 5-axis image stabilizer. ISO 51,200 is possible, 9 or up to 30 frames per second continuous shooting is possible, 779 autofocus points, and 6K 30 frames per second video and 4K 60 frames video is possible in the video mode. Plus, it even has the standard HDMI port and the side folding touch display like the Canons. A very good price value for a modern full-frame camera that convinces both in video and in photo. As a lens for L-mount, I would look at the Panasonic S50mm 1.8 for just around $300, or a similar one for L-mount from a third-party manufacturer. Before we continue with number 6, here is the sponsor of today's video, making this episode possible for you.
This is a great jacket system for outdoor photography. I'm Albert Ross, professional landscape photographer, and this is my Hawkland Parker Pro jacket. This red color is my personal signature edition. It has multiple layers, not just this layer. It has a fleece layer, a mid layer, and this outer layer. It's very waterproof, it's windproof, and it's suitable for any kind of weather conditions. Anyone can wear it, but it's a jacket system aimed at photographers, meaning it has some very nice features like this little pocket with my lens cloth attached here. I can quickly take it out for my glasses or my lens or my filters. Then it has really big pockets here for accessories, and it has a lot of nice pockets inside for batteries, smartphone, SD cards. It's very convenient for me as a photographer to use, not only because of the weather, but also because of all these nice features.
Maybe you also like the photography backpack, winter gloves, or classic jacket system. At www.hawkland.us.
Hawkland. Photographer's clothing.
Number 6 is the Fujifilm X-T5, a 40 megapixel APS-C camera from 2024 for $1,700 to $1,800. 5-axis image stabilization, 425 focus points and 15 frames per second continuous shooting. But ISO is already over at ISO 12800. For filming, there's 6K at 30 frames and 4K at 60 frames. Personally, I don't like that screen too much. It's the second worst on all cameras in my personal ranking. I don't understand why you have to flip it like this and then to the side and not to the front, because I think more people want a screen on the front or at least halfway and not to the side. But that's just my opinion. Anyway, on the other hand, the Fuji is still beautifully designed. However, the price is quite high for an APS-C camera, I find personally, and you have to decide for yourself if you need 40 megapixel on an APS-C sensor. Similar to the X-T2 from the entry-level camera video, I would choose the Fuji X-C35mm f2 for a lens to begin with, or even a faster lens with f1.4 if it's in the budget. Number 7 offers 2 full-frame options. In terms of price, they are almost identically now, as they are both from 2019. The Panasonic Lumix S1 and the S1R, with either 24 or 47 megapixels full frame for around $1,700 to $1,900. 225 focus points and 9 continuous shots per second, or electronic shutter, 30 frames per second with 18 megapixels are possible, up to ISO 51200. For all videographers, there's 4K 60 frames and HD 60 frames, including a standard HDMI connection and a sensor stabilizer. Funny thing for me, the screen is exactly the same shitty screen like with the Fuji before. I can't understand. But for that reason alone, I would not buy that camera, but rather the S5 Mark II. Just my personal opinion. But if you're looking for a lot of megapixels on a full frame for a good price, you can get it in the S1R. And for lenses, I would choose the same lens like with the S5 II. Links to all the cameras and the lenses you can also find in the description below. Alright, I still have 4 more cameras. Are you still with me? Then hit thumbs up. So we are slowly cracking the $2,000 barrier with number 8 on the list. The Nikon Z7 Mark II from 2020. 46 megapixels on a full-frame sensor, 5-axis image stabilization with up to ISO 25600 and an impressive 493 focus points. 10 continuous shots are possible and videos with 4K 60 frames and HD 120 frames. It sits comfortably in the hands, but only has that standard folding display we know from Sony's A7 III from this video. So filming yourself is not an option with this camera. As a lens, I would take the Nikon 40mm f2 here as well, even if it looks awkward, I find, on a full-frame camera with that small glass in the front. With more budget, maybe get the 50mm 1.4. We stay with Nikon and a camera that, in my opinion, Nikon has done almost everything right with. The Nikon Zf. 25 megapixels on a full-frame sensor from 2023 in a beautiful and timeless body. Price around $2,000 to $2,200. 5-axis image stabilization, ISO 64000 and 14 continuous shots are possible. 273 focus points aren't that great, but you get 4K at 60 frames video resolution, and the display can be folded out to the side and turned around to film or photograph yourself. The camera is significantly heavier than the retro APS-C model we also had in this video, and this is why the ZF feels much nicer and much more valuable. The camera is available in different colors, which I personally think is a good idea. The only drawback, in my opinion, is that the camera does not feel ergonomically that well in the hand. But hey, it looks good, and you can live with that when you care about how your camera looks. Am I right? So I would choose exactly the same lens like I did before with the Nikon, and for me, this camera is a positive surprise in the camera market, and that from Nikon, an optical eye-catcher and yet still technically at the forefront. For around $2,000, there's the Canon R6 Mark II, released in 2022 with a 24-megapixel full-frame sensor, 5-axis image stabilization, and 1053 focus points, almost 4 times as much as the Nikon Zf. ISO 102,412 or up to 40 images per second continuous shooting. For videos, there's 4K 60 frames and 120 frames HD. The screen can be completely turned around to the side and to the front as you know it from Canon. A great camera that fits comfortably in the hand with impressive specs. You can't go wrong with that price. Only the RF lens selection remains a shortcoming in 2024. But the RF 50mm 1.8, for example, is a good choice for a start. The last one on the list is the Sony A7 IV from 2021. Priced at around $2,200, it offers a 33-megapixel full-frame sensor with 5-axis image stabilization and 759 focus points. ISO 51200 and 10 images continuous shooting are possible. And the display can finally be folded sideways to the front, just like a good old Canon did 10 years ago. Finally also in a Sony camera. 4K at 60 frames are possible and 120 frames per second HD are possible for filming. The standard HDMI connection offers good connectivity and the eye autofocus when filming and photographing is very good. I personally took pictures with the camera for around a year and went on a few trips with it. It always served me well, and I exchanged it now for a newer model with almost double the megapixels and also double the price. More about this in the next video. Otherwise, it was a great camera and I think I would also be happy with it today, so I can definitely recommend it. As lens, I would choose maybe the Samyang 75 1.8 or a similar fast full-frame Sony E-mount lens, like 50mm 1.4, 1.8, and so on. There are so many third-party lenses to choose from for Sony nowadays. I already mentioned this with the A7 III. So there should be something for everyone now, right? Because we looked at 12 cameras. Holy moly! So which one was your favorite? Which one would you buy? As a beginner, maybe with a lot of budget, or maybe as an upgrade when you're photographing for a longer time? Which one do you maybe already have and can recommend or not recommend? Drop a line in the comments so that we all can learn from our experiences. And which is my current favorite? As you might already know from the first video, it depends. Low budget, A7 III or Panasonic S5 Mark II, top price value. Sports, maybe the R6 Mark II, because it's the most modern. For filming and price performance in a super modern all-arounder camera, maybe A7 Mark IV by Sony or even the Panasonic S5 Mark II, which is much cheaper. A modern full-frame camera with a beautiful look? Definitely the Nikon ZF. So it's a tough choice. Take a look at the video again, press pause if you need to, compare the prices, compare the specs, and also look at the lenses you might want and look at what they cost as well and take that in consideration. And if you want to learn more about photography, subscribe to my YouTube channel. The third part of this series about the absolute top cameras of 2024 with prices up to $8,000 for those who simply want the best. But is it really the best? You will see in the next video. If you want the cheapest option available, check out the first part of this series. It's all linked down in the description. My name is Benjamin Jaworskyj, and I hope you get some really great photos with your new camera.